I want you to go and open your closet right now if you're able and take a good long look at what's hanging there. Go on. Now ask yourself a simple question. How many of those garments do you truly expect to be wearing 10 years from now? 20 years? 30? For most folks, the honest answer is not a single one. We have grown used to clothes that wear out in a season or two, that fray at the seams and thin at the elbows and split at the knees, and when they do, we throw them away and buy more, and we think nothing of it. But I was raised among people who wear a coat for 30 years and a good work shirt for 20, who pass a well-made dress down from a mother to a daughter, who would no more throw away a garment because of a torn seam than you would throw away a house because of a loose shingle. And I am here to tell you that this is not because we have some secret. It is because we know how to mend. And mending, that near-forgotten skill, is the whole reason our clothes last as long as they do. Today, I am going to teach you the heart of it, so that you too can keep the clothes you love for as long as you live. Let me be plain and honest with you from the start, the way I always aim to be. There is no trick here, no gimmick. A garment lasts 30 years for two reasons only, and both of them are within your reach. The first reason is that it was well made to begin with, out of good, honest cloth, sewn with strong seams. The second reason is that when it began to wear, as everything under heaven eventually does, somebody sat down and mended it, patiently and well, before the small wear could become a large ruin. That is the entire secret. Good cloth and a willingness to mend. The reason clothes do not last for most people today is not that the people are careless. Exactly. It is that they were never taught the second half, the mending, and so the first small hole, which a few minutes with a needle would have closed forever, is allowed to grow until the whole garment is lost. So let me give you back that lost half. But before we take up the needle, we must speak of the cloth, because you cannot mend your way to 30 years out of a garment that was never meant to last 30 months. When you choose clothes, or when you make them, choose natural fibers and choose them heavy. Wool, cotton, linen, good sturdy denim. These are the fibers that our grandparents wore, and they are the fibers that last, because they are strong and because they can be mended. A tear in wool or cotton or linen can be darned and patched and made whole again. Much of what is sold today is a thin blend of man-made threads, and such cloth does not take a mend well at all, and it wears through in a way that cannot be repaired. So begin with good cloth. Feel the weight of a garment in your hand before you take it. A shirt that feels substantial, whose weave you cannot see light through, whose seams are doubled over and stitched twice. That is a shirt worth mending and worth keeping. A flimsy thing that feels like paper will not reward your care no matter how skilled your needle. Buy less and buy better and buy what can be fixed. That alone will change everything. Now, the first and most useful mend to learn, the one that will serve you more than any other, is the darn. To darn is to weave new thread across a hole or a thin, worn place, rebuilding the very cloth itself. Most folks first meet darning at the heel of a sock, for that is where cloth wears thinnest and fastest, and a darned sock is a thing of humble beauty. Here is how it is done. You turn the sock inside out and slip something firm and round inside it, under the hole, so you have a surface to work against. In the old days, this was a smooth wooden egg, made for the purpose, a darning egg, but a smooth stone or a light bulb or even the back of a spoon will serve. Then you take your needle, threaded, with a matching yarn, and first you lay down a row of long stitches across the hole in one direction, back and forth, spanning from the good cloth on one side to the good cloth on the other, until you have a little field of parallel threads bridging the gap like the warp on a loom. Then you turn and weave your needle over one thread and under the next, back and forth in the other direction, over and under, filling in that field until you have woven a new little patch of cloth right where the hole was. When you are done, you have not covered the hole. You have replaced it, rebuilt the fabric thread by thread. That is darning, and a heel darned well will outlast the sock around it. The same weaving mend serves for the elbow of a sweater, the knee of a trouser, any place where the cloth has worn thin or torn through. And here is a thing worth knowing. a thing that separates the wise mender from the careless one. Do not wait for the hole. The best time to reinforce a worn place is before it becomes a hole at all, while the cloth is only thinning, growing pale and sheer where the elbow or the knee rubs. At that stage, a little darning across the thin place, weaving new thread into the weakening cloth, will strengthen it and stop the hole from ever forming. My grandmother had eyes for this. She would run her thumb over the elbows of every shirt as she folded the wash, and where she felt the cloth beginning to give, she would set it aside for an evening's mending, and by that habit her family's clothes wore evenly and slowly and lasted almost beyond belief. An ounce of mending before the hole is worth a pound after. When the wear is too far gone for darning, when there is a proper hole or a long tear, then you turn to the patch, and the patch is the workhorse of all mending. A patch is simply a piece of sound cloth laid over the damage and stitched down all around, covering the wound and taking the strain in place of the worn cloth beneath. To patch well, first you trim away any loose, frayed, or rotted threads around the hole so you are working against sound cloth. Then you cut your patch from matching or complementing fabric, a scrap saved from an old garment beyond saving being ideal, and you cut it a good deal larger than the hole, an inch or more of overlap all the way around, because a patch that only just covers the hole will pull loose at the edges under strain. You can lay the patch on the outside or tuck it behind the hole on the inside, and there are uses for both. Then you stitch it down firmly all around and again around a little further in, so the strain is spread across the whole patch and not just its edge. A well-set patch on the knee of a work trouser will let that trouser serve for years more, and there is no shame in it. Among my people, a neat patch is a sign of thrift and good sense, not of poverty. There is an old way of patching from the far side of the world that our people have taken up gladly in recent years, and it is worth your learning, for it is both strong and beautiful. It is a way of laying a patch and then covering it and the cloth around it with rows and rows of small, even running stitches close together, marching in straight lines back and forth across the whole area. Those many rows of stitching bind the patch and the worn cloth together into one thick, strong, quilted piece, far tougher than the original. Workmen's clothes mended this way have been known to outlast several ordinary garments, growing stronger and more interesting with each mending. It takes patience, for it is a great many small stitches, but there is a deep quiet in the doing of it, and the result is a garment that is not only whole again, but somehow finer for having been mended. I commend it to you. Now let me speak of the seams, for a great many garments are given up as ruined when in truth they are not torn or worn at all, but have only come apart at the seam, and a seam that has come apart is the very easiest thing in all the world to mend. When the thread that holds two pieces of cloth together gives way, the cloth itself is usually still perfectly sound. All you must do is thread your needle, line the two edges back up as they were, and sew them together again along the old seam line, going a little past the opening at each end and back over your start to lock it. 5 minutes work, and a shirt that seemed lost is whole again. Learn to look at a failed garment and ask first, is it torn or has it merely come unsewn? For if it has only come unsewn, you have hardly any work at all before you. And I must not forget the humblest mend of all, which is the button. How many a good shirt hangs unworn in a closet, or is thrown out altogether for want of a single button that popped off and was never replaced? To sew on a button is the first mending skill anyone should learn, for it is simple and it is needed constantly. You thread your needle and knot the end, bring it up from beneath the cloth, through one hole of the button, down through the hole across from it, and up and down again through the pair of holes several times, keeping the button a little loose from the cloth so there is room for the buttonhole side to sit under it. Then, and this is the touch that makes it last, before you finish, you bring the needle up under the button but not through a hole, and wind the thread several times tightly around the little bundle of stitches between the button and the cloth, making a small firm neck, and only then push the needle back down through the cloth and knot it off beneath. That wound neck is what keeps the button from working loose again, and a button sewn that way will very likely outlast the shirt. Keep a tin of spare buttons, snipped from garments too far gone to save, and you will always have the right one to hand. There are two more skills that keep a garment in service long past its ordinary life, and they are the turning of a collar and the letting out of a seam. In the old days, when the collar of a good shirt wore through at the fold, as collars always do first, a clever wife did not throw the shirt away. She carefully unpicked the collar from the shirt, turned it over so the worn edge was tucked down inside and the sound underside faced up, and sewed it back on, and behold, the shirt had a fresh collar and years more of wear. The same could be done with shirt cuffs. And when a growing child or a broadening man no longer fit a garment, the seams, which good tailors and seamstresses always sewed with a little extra cloth folded inside precisely for this purpose, could be let out to give more room or taken in to give less. A garment made with good deep seams can be fitted and refitted to a changing body over many years. And this is one more reason the old clothes lasted so, for they were not thrown away simply because a body had changed. Let me give you a word on care as well, because half of making a garment last is in the washing and the keeping of it, not only in the mending. Wash your good clothes gently and not too often, for every washing wears the cloth a little, and much of what we wash was never truly dirty, only worn for a day. Wash in cool water, which is kinder to the fibers than hot. Dry them out of the harsh, direct sun where you can, and off of the hot air of a machine when possible, for both the blazing sun and the tumbling heat are hard on cloth over time and shorten its life. Mend the small things at once, the loose button, the started seam, the thinning elbow, before they grow into large ruins, for the whole art of long-lasting clothes is really the art of catching trouble while it is small. And store your clothes clean and dry and safe from the moth, for a wool coat that would have served you 30 years can be ruined in a single summer by moths if it is put away dirty and unguarded. A cake of cedar, a sprig of lavender, a clean dry chest, these keep the moth away in the old and gentle manner. Let me say a word about the tools of it, for they are few and humble and cost almost nothing, and having them ready to hand is half the battle. In every home among my people there is a mending basket, and it sits where it can be reached of an evening, and into it goes every garment that wants a small repair, waiting there until someone has a quiet half hour to sit and set it right. In that basket you will find needles of a few sizes, from fine ones for shirting to stout ones for canvas and wool. You will find good thread in the common colors, black and white and brown and gray, and darning yarns to match the socks and sweaters of the household. You will find a small sharp scissors. You will find a thimble, and let me not pass over the thimble lightly, for the young often scorn it and then wonder why the needle hurts their finger so, when the plain truth is that the thimble is what lets you push a needle through heavy cloth all evening without harm, and a mender who learns to use one works twice as fast and twice as long. You will find a paper of pins, a bit of beeswax to run the thread through so it does not tangle and knot as you sew, and that store of spare buttons snipped from garments beyond saving. That is nearly the whole of it. A few dollars worth of simple tools kept together in one place, ready for the mending, and with them a family can keep its whole wardrobe in good repair for a lifetime. Gather yourself such a basket, and keep it where you sit in the evening, and you will find the mending gets done almost without your noticing, a little each night, rather than piling up into a dreaded chore. I have not yet spoken of the hem. And I should, for a fallen hem is one of the most common little troubles a garment suffers, and one of the simplest to mend. Yet many a good dress or pair of trousers is set aside, because the hem has come down, and the owner does not know the small skill to put it up again. A hem is only the bottom edge of the cloth, folded up and stitched to keep it from fraying and to give the garment a neat finish. When the stitches let go and the hem hangs down, you have only to fold it back up along its old crease, pin it in place all around so it stays even, and then sew it up again with a stitch that catches only a thread or two of the outer cloth so it does not show on the right side. This is called a blind hem, and it is easily learned, and once you have it, you can shorten a garment that is too long or lengthen one that is too short if the hem was deep, or simply put back up a hem that has fallen, and all of it in a quiet evening's work. A garment with a good deep hem is like a garment with good deep seams, made with a little extra folded away against future need, and it is one more mark of the old thoughtful way of making clothes that were meant to be kept and altered and kept again. And let me urge you, if you have children, to teach them all of this while they are young, as we do, for it is a gift that will serve them their whole lives long. A child of 6 or 7 can sew on a button. A child of 9 or 10 can darn a sock and close a seam. It asks a little patience of the teacher, and a few pricked fingers are the price of the learning, but a child who grows up knowing how to mend, grows up understanding that things can be fixed, that a small trouble need not become a large loss, that care and effort can restore what carelessness would throw away. That understanding will spread out from clothes into the whole of their lives, into their tools, their homes, their friendships. And I do not think there is a much better thing you can teach a young person than that broken things can be made whole again by patient hands. My own father taught me at that mending basket of an evening, and the lessons I learned there about patience and thrift and care have served me far beyond the mending of any shirt. Now let me gather it all together for you so you carry away the whole of it. Begin with good, honest cloth, natural and heavy, made to be mended. Learn to darn, weaving new thread into the thin and worn places, and darn before the whole forms, not only after. Learn to patch, laying sound cloth over the damage and stitching it firm and wide. And try the beautiful old way of quilting the patch down with many small rows of stitches for a mend stronger than the original. Learn to close a parted seam, which is the easiest mend of all, and never mistake an unsewn garment for a ruined one. Learn to sew a button with a wound neck so it holds. Learn to turn a worn collar and to let out or take in a seam, and care for your clothes gently in the washing and the drying and the keeping, and catch every small trouble while it is still small. Do these things, and your clothes will last you not 2 seasons, but 2 decades and more. And you will save a great deal of money, and you will waste a great deal less, and you will feel, I think, a quiet satisfaction every time you slip on a garment you saved with your own 2 hands. For there is something in this beyond the thrift of it, real as that thrift is. When you mend a thing rather than discard it, you enter into a different relationship with your possessions and, I would say, with the whole world of things. You come to value what you have. You come to see the work and the material in a garment, the sheep that grew the wool, and the hands that spun and wove and sewed it. And you become slow to throw such a thing away over a small hurt that a few minutes of care can heal. That slowness, that unwillingness to waste, that respect for a made thing is a good way to live, and it is largely gone from the world now. And I think we are the poorer for its going. So take up the needle. Start with a button, then a seam, then a darn, then a patch. It is not hard. Our grandmothers taught it to children of 6. And before long, you will look at your closet not as a collection of things soon to be thrown away, but as a wardrobe you can keep and tend and hand down, clothes that grow old alongside you and serve you faithfully to the end. If this is the kind of good old useful wisdom you have been longing for, the kind that makes you a little more capable and a little more self-reliant and ties you back to the good sense of those who came before, then stay here with me. There is so much more where this came from, and I mean to bring it back to you, one piece at a time. Subscribe, and we will keep remembering the old ways together, because some of the most valuable things we ever knew are the plain ones we let ourselves forget, and the mending of good clothes so that they last a lifetime is surely one of them.